Welcome to episode 15 of the What If video podcast. Today, my friends Erica Pearson, who you've seen before on episode 12, and Bethany Harrison are joining me. Today, we're going to talk about something that's really been a challenge for me lately, and which is why I sought these girls out and asked them to come have this conversation. We're going to talk about anxiety and who can you be if you weren't anxious. So I really hope that if this is something you're dealing with, today's program will leave you filled with some hope and encouragement.
Thank you both so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excited to be back.
You were my first guest on this set, and now you're back. And you're my long-lost best friend that we're just meeting for the first time today. And I'm so excited to have you and to finally talk and get to know you.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So we're talking today about anxiety. So it's something that both of you have struggled with, or?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I guess I'm the veteran of the group.
Yes.
I'm the veteran. I'm the pro. And the way that God brought her into my life is pretty cool. She's actually my former student. I had her in middle school. And then years later, God brought us back together.
That's awesome. That's so neat.
And then we have dubbed ourselves the two anxious girls.
Yeah. So I'm gonna join your club.
Yes.
Can I join your anxious club?
There's a lot of panic exchange.
Yeah.
But one-sided panic exchange, and then the other one's usually calm and talks the other one off the ledge. So it's a support group hotline, if you will.
Yes.
Call and be like, I'm on the ledge.
Yeah.
Talk me down.
Yeah.
Usually it's not near as bad, or even remotely as bad as the other one has schemed it up.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's our mind and our thoughts. And just with my own short journey through it, because this is not something that I've dealt with for a long time, I really have the wildest part for me is how physical it is. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Crippling.
No idea.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't either until I can talk to someone else.
Yeah.
Was said, hey, I think this is what you're experiencing, and because I do the same thing. I thought it was just, I don't know, a heart attack.
Same.
I mean, I thought I was just having
100%.
I would just show up at the doctor and be like, my heart is racing and all this stuff, and blame it on, did I take too much cold medicine? Did I do, did I do something to cause this?
Right.
And then I think when situations got not more frequent, but in certain situations, I didn't know why my body was reacting like it was if something wasn't wrong.
Right.
I think leading up to my wedding, I kept being like, am I doing something wrong? Am I marrying the right person? Why am I acting, why am I reacting this way? When actually was graduating college and getting married and doing all of these things within a 4-week period, and my body just couldn't process it all and process it well. So, that was a big
That's a huge
realization.
misconception, is that it's just in your mind.
That's what I thought.
And if you don't, and then your body will eventually catch up with you and make you realize.
I think a lot of times it's the opposite, though. What I have found being on medication is if I can get my body under control, then it allows me space for my mind to do the work I need to do in my mind for it to follow. When my body's reacting, I can't necessarily just quote a Bible verse and all of a sudden I'm cured.
Right.
It's not that there's something physiological happening that's not the proper tool in that moment.
Yes.
And so I think it's been a combination. What I've learned with Erica is it's been a combination of being in the Word, praying, doing all of those things are necessary and they're good, but also there is a very physical component that's happening in your body right now that we also have to address. Otherwise, you're fighting kind of against yourself.
That's so true. Yeah. And I can find myself, if my heart's racing or something, I have an Apple Watch and I'll be checking my heart rate every 5 seconds. And my husband finally told me, he's like, I've just never done that. I don't do
John's
that.
the same way.
I don't do that normally.
Why are you this way?
But what you're I agree with what you're saying, is because my body is so reacting physically that I can't even think straight, because now I'm in full-blown panic mode, because surely I'm having a heart attack and I'm probably going to die tonight and never see my baby again. Surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
my
you
conclusion.
spiral. You spiral. It's so easy, and it's so easy to do that. And I know, even recently I called Erica I had a sinus infection. They put me on a steroid, which made me more like hyper.
Yeah.
And I called Erica and I'm like, okay, I'm on a steroid, so just take that into consideration. But Jack may have leukemia. He's had a bloody nose. So everything gets escalated, just so larger than life. And I have to be reeled back in, and told, your body is also reacting to medication. And
the thing that I feel like I tried to teach her, and in teaching her taught myself, was by trying to tell yourself, oh, just don't think about it. Or when you try to ignore it, or you don't accept the fact that this is happening, it just gets bigger.
Yeah.
But when you acknowledge it, and when our text messages are hilarious, and we're convinced somebody would admit us if they read them.
That's fine.
But
I'd probably go.
It's kind of like a spa.
I'd be for sure willing to go.
But when we acknowledge what is happening, when we acknowledge the sometimes very small, sometimes very ridiculous, and we talk ourselves through it, when we name it, then it gets smaller, and we can handle it, and we can deal with it, and we can move through our day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And that's something too, they reiterate. I've been in counseling since the October before I had bank, so almost 2 years. And that's something with a lot of, they told me, very, first session in counseling is when you name it and you shed light on it, it's not so scary as in the dark. So I think that's a big kind of key, is just accepting that, okay, whatever this is making me anxious. And I think having someone to talk it out with, maybe not necessarily just anybody, but a safe person that you can talk it out with, I think does help you kind of de-escalate the situation to where it's in bite-sized chunks and you can digest why it's making you this way.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes it happens for no reason.
Yeah.
At all.
Yes.
That it's not, it's just your body reacting to whatever, and there's just no reason for it. I remember I was at a restaurant in Franklin eating dinner before, ironically, a book release on anxiety, and I had just this full-blown panic attack. And I thought, who has a panic attack and an anxiety forum? Me, that's who. And I remember just being what is wrong with me? And my hands were my hands get tense. So I was and just having this reaction. And I was why am I this way? And then it kind of passed and it was fine. And I don't know what, and I still to this day don't know what brought it on unless it was talking about anxiety. So if I start drawing up, just know, I don't know why I'm doing it. But anyways, I think just sometimes it happens. And I think maybe just accepting, not that it is you. I had to get over the fact that it's not me, right? I am not anxiety.
Right.
But that it's just something that happens to me.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that I think that was freeing.
And I'm not broken. I'm not broken.
Yes.
I don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is how my brain works.
Right.
I'm going to love myself. Always said I would have not been the one in the boat everything's fine. I would have been on the stern going, we're gonna die.
100%. I feel that way every time my husband drives us somewhere. And he's
on the thing.
It's always and my hand flies up like this. He's we're fine. I'm we're gonna die.
Me too. John, that's a lot of our arguments actually.
Same.
We went to marriage counseling and be he doesn't put his brakes on soon enough. That's the problem.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I think that was big.
Yeah. And knowing that anxious thoughts are not something I have control over. I mean, it is they will just come and out of nowhere. Yeah. And you just have to know that, we have a plan, and knowing who to talk to.
Yes.
Because you can't talk to somebody who's going to say, just chill out.
Right.
Just don't think about it. It'll pass.
Right.
You have to have people, you have to surround yourself intentionally with people. And that's where counseling comes into play.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of people out there who know how to talk through it.
Right. And I love that you guys, something that you all pointed out in these notes that we were talking about is, unfortunately, the church isn't always a super helpful place right now to run for help. Because, that is also another thought that I had, is that, okay, I just need to pray and it's going to go away. And obviously I don't have enough faith, or something's wrong with me because it's not going away. Like, it's not even calming it. Like, I could speak peace over myself. I'm still freaking out. You know what I mean? Like, so that is to talk to someone else who's also gone through it. There's just such comfort in that. And I feel like that could be anything, not just anxiety, anything.
Anything. I think as I got older and as I started going through some really difficult things with miscarriage and with my children and the birth of my children, people have their own kind of twisted thoughts on, and some of them are well-intended.
Absolutely,
thoughts and comments on how to help. And I think whether it's anxiety or grief or depression or all of the things, it's so important, like we said, to have that safe space and that safe group. And I think about church in the sense that they were some of my biggest advocates during certain things I was going through. And also some of the most hurtful things were said to me through that same group during different seasons. And it's taken into consideration too, which is just a bunch of flawed people, right? Like in the church. But I think realizing, like you said, that you're not broken and that this is something that you do experience in whatever situation, not even just anxiety, but like whatever situation you're walking through, that it doesn't make you a broken person. There's freedom found in that, I think. And not that it will be perfect, but I think in knowing that kind of helps you navigate it through.
Absolutely.
Because it's just, once you realize, like, a lot of it is well-intended.
Yes.
But some things, I don't want to say, like, there's some things I don't share with my church group in the sense of, like, but there's some things I have learned that that's something I need to announce to a women's Bible study group. You know, I think because it can be this well-intended, but it's hurtful.
I think there's a fear that we are minimalizing the power of God. Because, you know, I remember one day when I was walking through a pregnancy with my son, and I was kind of verbalizing to somebody some of my fears, and they looked at me and said, well, I thought you had more faith than that. And I said, this is not a faith issue. Not everything is a faith issue. And, you know, it just kind of took them back. And I said, when you can't even breathe, you know, when I can't even find the strength to sort through my thoughts, he gave us community and told us to stay in community for a reason. So it's, you know, loving people enough to understand I'm not minimalizing his power. He's given us tools.
Well, and I think it's shedding light on the fact that this is what I'm experiencing. It has nothing to do with his power. This is what I am feeling. And my counselor always says, you feel what you feel. Regardless, you still feel what you feel. You can minimize it or not talk about it or shove it in a closet or whatever you want to do, but you still feel what you feel. And I think that, again, just the shedding light on it and in the proper context. For instance, when I, with my third child, Banks, had a very complicated pregnancy, that the outcome was not good for me or Banks. Worse for me than for Banks, probably, I would say. Point blank, almost like looked at me and said, you know, you can die from this. You will, and gave my husband enough information of not she likely will die, but we're going to do everything we can. And I remember when I was walking through that, and I talked to Erica and I talked to my counselor and I shared on my blog, but there's so many people that want to like negate the situation that you're going through or minimize the situation that you're going through. And I felt so angry that, I guess kind of in the same sense of telling you, you shouldn't worry, you should have more faith, that kind of thing, that everybody was, well, we're just going to claim that it's all going to be okay. And in my world, in my circumstances, in my data that I was given, it was not okay. And it was not going to be okay. And I think oftentimes we feel that same situation. Like I thought maybe afterwards, after I got through everything, that I wouldn't have those fears and those anxieties again. But I still go to that place of, in my head, this is what I see. this is what I feel, and it's not okay.
Yeah.
And it feels like when everyone is trying to give you all of these inspirational quotes,
and when you can't
it doesn't
pray it
help.
away.
Yeah, when you can't
pray it away, you end up feeling very, well, what is wrong with me?
Absolutely.
And then that takes you down a rabbit hole that leads you to the wrong conclusion of God and his love and his character.
Absolutely.
So anything that takes you to the wrong conclusion of his character and what his word says, you've got to step back and go, okay, where did I rabbit trail wrong?
Right.
So
one of my guests earlier today that I talked to, her ministry is called Choose Different. And it's literally like, I'm doing this, I'm going to stop myself and choose different. And I love that mindset, because for me, like, if I am thinking something and it's just spiraling, like, I have to choose to speak something verbally. Like, I can't just think or pray silently. Like, I have to verbally stop my thought process. And if I speak, my thought process stops. For me, it doesn't always fix it, but it at least gives me that, like, breath. Okay, wait, like, stop here. And if I can, I love what you guys are saying, like, call it what it is. You feel what you feel. It gives me the opportunity, as uncomfortable as it is to sit in the uncomfortable moment, to figure out, okay, where is God in this? Because he's here, he's with me, he hasn't left me, he still loves me, and I'm not broken. It gives me that opportunity, which I think is really hard for me and for most people, is to sit in the pain or sit in the uncomfortable and let God work, let him remind us of who he is, let us recall what he has done in the past. Like, if we can just stop our thought process and get there.
That's taking your thoughts captive.
Yes, 100%.
That is taking them captive and make them obedient to Christ.
Which is hard.
So hard.
So hard.
But that is actually the verse that I have taught my son, just to say over and over and over again. And we talk about what that looks like. And for me, it looks like putting them on a card and keeping them in front of me, and making sure that I've got to know that so that I can recall it.
Yeah. I love the verse that you guys pointed out here. He will not fear bad news. His heart is confident, trusting in the Lord. And then I looked it up in here with my cool new tabs that I just got. And then the beginning of verse 8 says, his heart is assured, which means confident, and he will not fear.
The game changer for me, the day that I read that it really, like, penetrated my soul, was bad news is coming. And for someone who lives with anxiety and anxious thoughts, we know that already. It's played out in my head, but knowing that bad news is coming, but I don't have to live in fear of it. It doesn't have to take a hold of me. I can live in this moment, and I can be confident that no matter what. And when God walked her through literally every worst case scenario that we could have and didn't even think of, you know, and I watched her lean on everything that she had learned, it was incredible, because we didn't have to.
And there's a peace in that. And I've said this over and over, and I don't know how to, like, I guess best convey it, but I was not afraid the whole time I was in that hospital. There was parts I was dreading. I was dreading the central line. I was really dreading the central line. And when the anesthesiologist told me I didn't have to be awake for him to put it in, I could have kissed him on the mouth. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. But there were certain parts I was dreading, right? I did not like doing my AccuChecks. I didn't like getting the shots. Like, I didn't like doing all these things. But I was not scared in the operating room. The only time I ever remember being, like, a little panicked was when they put the oxygen bubble on my mouth, because it suctioned in my face. And that made me just claustrophobic feeling. But I was not afraid. And that, to me, was so mind-blowing, because I'm always afraid.
Well, and just knowing that peace, at that moment, like, he's going to give you what you need,
the verse of
when you need it.
And it was all of the worst case scenario. There was no not worst case scenario, other than Banks did not pass away. I did not pass away. I did, but I didn't. Obviously I'm still here, but there was anytime I called Erica to give her an update, there was not hope within, there was not good news that I was calling to tell her.
Right.
And so I think, like, living through that and then seeing, despite all of the bad news, in that moment, the verse about hope as you trust as you trust in him.
Yes.
Not because you trust in him.
Right.
But as you trust in him. And I don't even know what that looked like at the moment. And I feel like that's important to say. I was not like, before I went to surgery, I was not reading my Bible. I was watching Miss Congeniality. So I just, it wasn't like I was doing these things and I was granted peace, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, she was in prayer.
Right.
Let me give her some peace
right.
as she goes into the biggest surgery of her life.
Right.
It was, I was just, I guess, abiding.
Yeah.
That's all I could
so
do.
Good. Right.
Right?
Yes.
That's all I could do. And I was watching a movie with my mom. My mom left. I went into labor. I was at the hospital by myself and was wheeled to the OR. And so it was, but I was never afraid. And if you had told me that all of that was going to happen, I would have probably legit had a heart attack before I went into all of it. But just, in those moments, and I think that to me was so evident of God's character and his sweetness, that he knew that all of this was scaring me. But he was there holding me.
Well, what you just said is such a beautiful point, because there's a lot of books out there on anxiety that we have picked up and immediately put down because it gives you a 10-step process of things to do. Right. And I'm exhausted already. Yeah. Like I can't.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I
brought no books.
I don't.
Because I'm like, I can't write you a book on this. You'd be afraid.
Right.
Like, it would invoke more anxiety. Right. You don't want to live in my head. Yeah. Let me tell you where you don't want to be. I can't give you, like, this is not the topic that you want me to write on, because it's scary there. But yeah, there's all of these checklists, or follow me and I'll give you, and I'm not saying it's not good. There aren't good exercises. When I got out of the hospital and was having some like PTSD, like panic, there was like grounding exercises of like putting my feet in water when I was having a panic attack to bring me back to present. Like there are things that, clinical things that are very helpful.
Right. Yes.
I'm on medication. I go to counseling. I do all of the things.
You do your part.
I do my part.
Yes.
I have to do those things. But two, I think there is a sweetness in abiding and knowing that at the end of the day, he's going
to love us.
Yes. And he's still going to be God.
Yes.
Whether we watch Miss Congeniality before surgery or are on our knees praying. Like at that moment, I wasn't having contractions. I just was being a fat cow and watching Miss Congeniality, And so it was just that moment. And to me, that spoke so much of like, I don't have to do anything.
It's not a checklist.
Yeah. I don't have to do anything for that peace, for him to grant me that peace.
Right.
And it was a sweet glimpse into his heart.
Yes.
When I came out on the other, especially when I came out on the other side of it, because I realized then, I realized how bad it was and how I was never afraid. And for the girl that is always afraid.
All the things.
Yeah. All the things. I'm afraid of all the things.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Nice.
It's going to go wrong. John says I'm the most negative human he's ever met in his life, but I'm real good for damage control.
Yeah.
But that's probably my call. To be best. Yeah. I'm real good at calling out what's going to go bad.
Yeah. That's what Bobby, he says, do you think worst case scenario and everything? I'm like, yes, Charlie's probably going to fall on that. So please don't even put him by it.
Oh, he's already played out. He's not, he's not probably going to fall. This is how he's going to fall. This is what it's going to look like. This is the laceration size. This is how long it's going to take us to get to the doctor's office. Yeah. Like it's all encompassing. Yeah. Yes. So, but I think that was a beautiful, I don't know. Yeah. There was beautiful freedom.
Yes.
And abiding.
I think that's a key. And I feel like the three of us, probably more of a type A planner, control the situation, checklist, love checklist. I love planners. I love new paper and pens and Lisa Frank. Same. Like all of the things.
All the Lisa Frank.
I'm an A- is what I say.
An A-. Okay.
Yeah. I'm little there.
But I feel like still for me, like I can get so caught up in that works. Like I have to do these things.
Almost like an OCD. Like if you don't do these things.
He's not going to do. And he freed you from that.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah. And that was a beautiful thing. I mean, for me, because I've lived my whole life like that.
Yeah.
Like probably from the time I can remember being really little, feeling like if I weren't right there with my parents, something was going to happen to them. If I didn't do these things, I sat in your classroom many a days and panicked about things. So, like, there were plenty of times I'm sitting there, like, rocking in Erica's chair.
Well, I think I just realized this is not going away. This is not something that is going away.
Yeah.
And that the moment that I accepted that and I accepted who I was and how he made me, that is when I found true healing.
That's so good. That's so good. We're almost out of time. Which I feel like we could just probably sit here for the next 4 hours. So we need to do this again. This is going to be part 2 and part 3, probably. But one piece of hope that you all would like to leave people with? Is there something that sticks out? I think
find your, he loves us. And as far as a piece of hope.
Your people are important.
Yeah, find your people.
Yeah.
Find your people.
I'm a big counselor advocate.
Yeah.
I think a counselor, I got with Peggy before I before I even knew anything about banks, and did Zoom calls with her in the hospital, had a trauma counselor after the hospital. I think having someone to walk you through is so important. If you're struggling at all, even if I think everybody needs a counselor like you need a doctor. Like you need a primary care physician.
Yeah.
Like I think it's part of, for me, it's part of my life.
Absolutely.
It's just part of my life.
So I feel like finding your people, finding your community, and I think a big part of what we talked about is doing our part. You know, I do think we can get so caught up on the faith side of it, which is a great place to be. But there's a physical side too.
Doing your part, the physical side will bring you back to the faith part.
Yeah,
and
that's so
ultimately
good.
allow you, ultimately allow you to abide.
Yes.
And allow you the freedom to abide in Him.
Yep. That's so good. Thank you both so much.
Thank
We're going to do it
you.
again for sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes, thank you.
We would love to connect with you. Follow us on social media at What If Video Podcast or check out our website by visiting ashleylmcclain.com. You can see what's coming up on What If, submit your What If questions, read Ashley's blog, and so much more. We can't wait to connect with you.
The What If podcast is now on iTunes. Subscribe to our video or audio podcast today and don't miss another episode. I wish that I had more time to wrap up this show, but the girls just had so much good information to share. And I just pray for you that if you are struggling with anxiety, I would love for you to email me. I would love and be honored to pray with you as we kind of walk through this season together. So I hope that you'll reach out to us. You can find our contact information on our website. Send us your prayer requests. Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram, anything like that. And we'd be happy to pray with you. Just know that there is hope and there is freedom and you are not alone. So I just pray that you're encouraged, and we'll see you next time on the What If Video Podcast.